Hey, it's Les from the TV Dudes. This week, I got to chat with Gavin Houston, who plays Jeffrey Harrington on The Have and the Have-Nots. We talked about everything from his vision board to how losing an audition changed his life, and which comic book adaptation he'd love to make happen. Hope you enjoy. Hey, Gavin.
How are you?
I'm doing great, man. Thank you so much for taking the time to do the interview today.
Well, thank you for having me. I really appreciate it as well.
So, you were on, is it your seventh season, or is it the seventh season of The Have and Have-Nots?
Yep. We just finished our seventh, and it looks like there's going to be another eighth season we'll be shooting in the upcoming year.
That's great.
So it's pretty crazy. Yeah.
And I've heard from talking to other casts that the shooting pace of that show is exceptional. That it shoots really fast.
Oh my, yes.
Can you talk a little bit about what a normal day is?
Well, first, I worked on Guiding Light. I worked on General Hospital. So I had, in terms of pace, that was the standard of the fastest shooting on the planet, at the time, in terms of, and I thought there was no way of shooting anything faster, definitely not a primetime show. But this definitely surpassed that. It's definitely been, I always call it's the best training because it's almost like boot camp. And, they always say that a lot of the work for a director happens in the casting, because then once you do that, you trust your actors, and then you can just let them kind of have a little bit more freedom. And at the pace that he sets, there's definitely a lot of trust that we can manage it, because there's things that I didn't think I could get through, but we got through just because we're shooting so fast. You have to take in so much so quickly, and then also be on just free to change it at any moment, as well as loose enough to figure out things like blocking and certain marks you have to hit during certain parts in the scene very quickly. So that's been a huge challenge, and I think in terms of the cast, I think everybody kind of took it on pretty quickly. Most of the cast has a theater background, so we're used to being able to be loose on our feet. In terms of playing Jeffrey Harrington, going there, I never know what's going to happen, because the character is so complex, and there's so much ineptitude in certain ways that he deals with things. There's a lot of vulnerability in terms of and fear-based in terms of the actions that he takes. So because of the way the scene might go, Tyler's there hands-on directing it. He wrote it. He might see something happening and want us to tweak it or throw something in to add to the scene. So it is always a fun thing, because it's kind of like going to a wood shop and just building something from scratch. Even though we kind of have a blueprint, he gives us the freedom to move off of it, as well as he trusts us enough to throw us curveballs in the middle of it.
Trying to read the synopsis of the show, your character arcs have definitely been some curveballs.
Yeah.
I mean, not just a coming of age story or a coming out story, but when your mom on the show had problems with you, there's a murder involved.
Oh my gosh!
Has there been a favorite turn or twist for you? Something just really delicious that you got to play? Lines you really enjoyed?
That's a good question. A turn. Yeah, one of the things that, because for me, as Gavin, I'm so much more, especially in terms of, let's, I guess, start with the character, the relationship that he has with his mom. His mom is almost bullying to him. And me, I'm so, like, Robin Hood. Like, I want to stand up to the bully. I want to help whoever's getting bullied. So because I have that personality, there's been times that I've had literally confrontations with my mom to the point of stabbing her in her chest. That I don't want to say have definitely not fun stabbing her in the chest, but it was fun to have that toe-to-toe happen. and finally, like you said, with the coming of age, finally have the strength where I could pull a lot more Gavin into the character. Because, but all that stuff takes time to get set up. Because at first the audience didn't really understand him, and then when they saw the backstory and what he was going through, now they're starting to root for the underdog. So now when that day finally came up where he got a chance to speak to stand up to his mother, it was refreshing because I feel like now I could color it a lot more. I'm not in the confines of taking it because this is where the character is at in the story. So I think when I had that opportunity, I mean, he's regressed back to a lot of other things because she's just always a step ahead of him. But in terms of being able to blackmail him or hold something over him, but I think that was probably the most fun that I had in terms of being, because she's so talented and she just kills it. So now when I was able to bring my own strength to it, then it was like a war, and it was just a great moment.
I imagine that there really has to be a camaraderie that happens after that much time on a show and a cast that tight and that fast of a shooting pace. Is there anything that you guys do on set to help bolster that or to help keep that energy?
I think ever since day one, Tyler actually did something that I had never seen before. He gathers up the crew and any of the cast who wanna join as well, and everybody holds hand, and he just says a prayer for the day, just that everybody will, get home safe, be safe, as well as, just being there, just as a way of also reflecting gratitude, just for us all to be working together and have this beautiful blessing to share our artistry or our craft in whatever way, whether it's a crew or an actor. So I think with him doing that, it sets the tone for the day. It sets the tone, everyone holding hands and just, and forming a circle and just with prayer together. It definitely sets a family atmosphere, and that's one of the biggest things that I noticed since day one, because I've never seen that. It's not just boom, just jump into work. First is let's just take our time, just being in gratitude of just having this moment and being able to do this. So I think I think him doing that, and it just brought everybody closer, not only the cast with each other, because we were all new, we didn't know each other, we didn't really know what we had. It was first time for most of us working with Tyler, working with Oprah, but then also for our bond with the crew. So the crew is a part of that family as well, and it's not just the cast. Because it really takes everybody. It's a village to make it all come together.
What was the first role or audition that kind of gave you that cornerstone win, that feeling of I might be able to do this professionally, I should keep pursuing this?
You know what it was? It actually went a lot further. I started out as a child actor. I'd done episodes of The Cosby Show. I was doing commercials with Dr. Ruth and Jerry O'Connell. I was doing a lot of theater at the time. And then I remember I didn't get a role on Moesha. I think it was back in the day, to play like her boyfriend. And my parents were like, okay, this has been fun, but now it's time to go away to college. So I went to college. I was pre-med, and then I think it changed to physical therapy. And then I never forget, I was doing stadium steps, just jogging, and I saw a sign for an audition, kind of an open call audition. I guess they needed new roles for the theater department. And I just crashed the audition. I was like, wow, that would be interesting. Crashed the audition, had an amazing audition, and felt so good just that night. I remember not sleeping because I had figured out what I wanted to do, and I was so excited. I didn't care if I got the part or not, and I actually got the part, got involved in it, got involved in the theater department, and then I remember I was doing Richard III, Shakespeare, and I invited my dad, who happened to be in Florida at the same time, and he came and he saw the performance, and he didn't even know I was in the theater department, and I kind of just told him last minute. He came, he saw the performance, and he gave me his blessing because he was blown away, and that was confirmation. But for myself, I knew for a fact once I had that first audition in college, just because of how I felt, not even because of whether the result was getting the role or not, just because it was just an ability to perform and use everything that I've had in my life to infuse on a character.
Now, you also have a martial arts background as well.
Yeah.
Is that right?
Yep. Yep.
What first got you into that?
Yeah, I think for me, I grew up doing gymnastics for about 10 years. So we competed. It was back in the 80s. We did exhibitions with Mary Lou Retton, Bart Conner, a fellow, like a lot of Olympians. And I was getting trained to go into Olympic training and just decided to, at a certain age, I think it was in middle school, to stop, or junior high, I decided to stop just to play other sports. But I think from doing that, I was always flexible, quicker, and I always loved martial arts. And I used to watch the old martial arts movies and things like that. And I love action films. And that's where I see myself going, doing action films, playing some sort of a superhero, something like that where there's that physicality infused. Because I've always been into fitness my entire life, still do splits and things like that, and still doing yoga daily just to keep the flexibility and the core strength and everything like that. And I'm about to start studying Krav Maga now, so I've always had fun when I've been able to do fight scenes in films and on television, and I have a feeling like that's what's going to carry this thing to the next level. And I kind of always felt that.
I'd heard you say in an interview somewhere that Green Lantern, that if they ever did a Jon Stewart arc or a Jon Stewart movie of Green Lantern.
Man, that's good homework, man. It's funny because I haven't said that often. I remember I was in New York and I had to do a commercial audition, and I had to, it was superheroes, and I had to, this is like 2003 or 4, and I had to be Jon Stewart. And at the time, I didn't know of any African American superheroes. I mean, the only superhero at the time that I even knew of was Blade, at the time. So when I found out and I got more information, I got a picture of him. I did a whole treatment and started writing. And for me, that is my future vision of being able to one day play this character in Green Lantern. Jon Stewart, who's right after Hal Jordan, who was played by Ryan Reynolds, obviously. I know they're doing a reboot of Green Lantern, so we'll see, and we'll see what happens. But yeah, Jon Stewart, that would, or even any other comic book or Marvel or DC comic would be cool. And for some reason, I feel it, like I'm literally training for it in some way, whether it's TV, television, or film. And I feel like that's my destiny. For whatever reason, it's been put into me, into my spirit. So I'm sure that I'll see it come to fruition.
Well, I mean, you've moved from Guiding Light up to Have and Have-Nots. You're on Shondaland and in a Grey's Anatomy episode recently.
Yeah.
We'll just keep this in mind, and I'll get a Jon Stewart movie out of this. We just need you to focus and make this happen.
Yeah, you have to. And it's so funny. Just in terms of that, there was a point at which I wrote down, be a series regular by this time, do this by this time. There was a car that I had on a vision board for 3 years that I just loved, and I had it, and I wrote it down. I put it on the vision board, and every single thing happened. I almost wish I had written more, but it literally somehow happened in around the time frame that I said it. So it's really an energy once you put that out there and do the work, of course, and master the consistency of doing the work. I feel like in some way things just slowly work themselves out, and I couldn't believe it. Because it's funny, before even getting this role, I was told by a manager to take 6 months off, because I'd come close to booking the show Hit the Floor, and I didn't get it, and he told me, take 6 months off, this and that, because I had gone through like a drought, and I chose not to listen to that. Like he said, well, the door's always open, and I was like, well, not if I close it, because I can't give someone that much power over my career. And literally, I was like, I'm just gonna go a separate way. And I had nothing. I had no manager at the time. And then, was depressed for about a week, and then got on, like, literally emailed and contacted every single manager in Los Angeles, and hit and met with some managers. And I literally got on the show 4 months later. So it was interesting, because had I listened to him and not protected my own dream, it could have gone a different way. I could have said, okay, well, he said take 6 months off. I'll just go back to class and take 6 months off. But I think you always have to protect your dreams because there's people who are going to come in to test that and to test how badly you want it. So, and like I said, he told me to take 6 months off. I got on a show within 4 months. So.
Yeah, you'd have missed the 4 months of work you needed to do right then. Right.
And I didn't miss the opportunity. If I had taken 6 months off, I would never even had the audition for this role. That would have been like, all right. But I totally decided to walk away from him, and I got with someone new who found this role. You know, sometimes I truly believe sometimes it has to get worse for it to get better. It's like if you want to leap up and jump up, you have to squat down. You have to almost go backwards, down, and then launch up higher, you know, so.
Where would you say after all of these twists and turns for Jeffrey, where's he at this point in the show? Can you sum up your character at this point?
It's so funny. And I don't know if I feel like he's still at a point of confusion. I feel there's always like a push and pull of the person who he wants to be and the person who he feels he needs to be because of fulfilling that and getting that love and approval that he needs, that most people need from their parents. So I always feel like he's still at a point of teetering on one side and teetering on the other side. And certain things and certain people end up getting him to regress back into a vulnerable, weak state. So I think like a lot of his, all these characters are flawed, and I think that's one of the things he grapples with. But I feel like he's closer to being that person who is almost an alpha in a sense, and because he has it in him. It's just he just regresses back to what was safe or what is learned, or shrinking when he's around a parent, his mom, really, who just makes him feel like, 5 years old again. So I feel like he's still coming of age to some degree, but he's closer to standing in who he's meant to be.
Well, man, really excited to see what you do next. Everybody ought to go check out The Have and the Have-Nots. If you've ever enjoyed a soap opera or thought, this show could be a little more dramatic. That's a wild, wild show. And if you could, please write down Green Lantern movie on a vision board just somewhere so that I can watch that. That'd be awesome.
Doing that today. It's happening. You heard it here. It's happening. And thank you so much, Les, for this opportunity. It's been great.
I'll have a great rest of your day, man. Thanks again.
You too. All right, bye.
The TV Dudes is an independently run podcast and a member of the Electric Sweater Podcast Network. We are exclusively listener-supported. If you'd like to help us out, go to patreon.com/TVDudes. You can like us on Facebook and Twitter @TVDudes. All the music for our show is by our friend and original TV Dude, Gregory J. Amani Smith. To find out more about us, go to thetvdudes.com and electricsweater.com. I'm Grant Davis. Thanks for listening.